First of all, thank you so much for joining me here today. I want to thank you as well for everything that you've been doing for a long time now. And I thank you for helping our Chinese Canadian community stay connected and feel strong together as a very important community of influence here in Ontario. And I want to thank you as well because many of you recognized, your organizations recognized a long time ago, the growing influence of China in the geopolitical scene. And I've been proud many times with Michael to visit China. We've made 4 separate trips to China. I've gone to China more times than any other in terms of an overseas flight. I've really enjoyed my opportunities there, not only to establish stronger trade ties, but of course cultural ties, and to gain a better understanding of the evolution of Chinese way of life as people move in ever larger numbers from the countryside into urban centers. We're here today is to allow me to talk a little bit about our platform. As you know, soon the election will be officially underway, but for all intents and purposes, you know, the parties are out there now and talking about their platforms. It's our plan for the next 4 years. It also recognizes that these are challenging times for our families. So we intend to, through our plan, to find a way to lend support to our families at the same time that we move our province forward together. Let me talk to you about some of the specific initiatives. First of all, I want to talk to you about what we're doing in education. You will know that education has been my top personal priority for 8 years now. And I draw inspiration in particular from Chinese Canadian mothers and fathers. If ever there were a group of people who were absolutely committed to educating the children, who placed a very high value on education, it is to be found in the Chinese Canadian community. And that's a real inspiration for all of us. So what we've done, as you well know at the beginning, we had smaller classes. We've hired more teachers. We now have higher test scores. We have higher graduation rates. The graduation rate has gone 81%. We've also created, since there are more young people graduating than ever before, we've created more spaces in our colleges, universities, and apprenticeship programs. There are 200,000 more young people studying there today in comparison to 2003. In order to get ready for even more young people coming, we're going to create 60,000 more spaces. And in order to make sure that all our young people from all our families, regardless of their economic background, can afford to go on to post-secondary education, we're introducing a new tuition grant. It will take, it reduces the tuition by 30% every year. So for a university tuition, we'll cut that down by $1,600. Over the course of a 4-year degree, that means you'll pay $6,400 less for your university degree. For a college program, we're going to reduce college tuition by $730 every year. And we're talking about $3,000 then off the price of a 4-year college diploma. We're very pleased at how this has already been received. It speaks to our desire to help families with a real cost issue. And at the same time, we're going to help our economy grow stronger as a whole. So you might say it hits the sweet spot. It's good for families, and it's good for the economy as a whole. We want to help more seniors stay in their homes. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring back house calls, which will allow doctors and nurses to go visit your mother or father or grandmother or grandfather in their home in cases where they have a great deal of difficulty getting into the doctor's or the nurse's office. We're also going to dramatically increase the number of home care hours. And the other thing that we're going to do is we find that in some cases, some seniors need to make changes to their homes, to their houses. And we're going to provide a 15% healthy home renovation tax credit. That'll provide up to $1,500 a year. Again, this is the sweet spot. If that's not just good for seniors and their families because it allows them to do what they want to do, which is to stay at home safely and securely, but it's good for all of us because as taxpayers, it's much less expensive to find ways to allow seniors to stay in their homes than it is to have them go into the hospital or a long-term setting. So those are two important initiatives. There are many others of which I can I could speak to you during the course of our questions. But fundamentally, what we're saying is we recognize that these are globally certain times. When you take a look at what's happening in the global economy, we recognize that these are challenging times in our homes as well. So we're finding ways through our platform. We make the fewest commitments of all the parties. Our platform is the least expensive of all the parties, but it's the most realistic, it's the most forward-looking, and it's the only one that will keep us on track. The NDP, on the other hand, are committing to raising taxes on our job creators by $9 billion. That'll mean we'll generate less revenue and have less financial capacity, less money to support our schools and our health care. Last point I'm going to make, because I know business is very important to all of us as well. We've already reduced the small business tax rate in Ontario. We dropped it 20%, so it's at 4.5% now. We're going to drop it another 0.5%, bringing it down to 4%, because small business is such an important generator of jobs and wealth for all of us. Thank you. He was proposing a 10% wage subsidy for employers who would hire new Canadians and provide them with on-the-job training opportunities. So I'm very disappointed that he would change his mind. And what I said earlier today, I will repeat. It's a sad day in Ontario because the Tea Party has taken over the former Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. I think Ontarians have a different value set. They want us to find ways to work together and to grow stronger together. They don't want to practice the politics of division and anger and resentment and envy. They want us to find ways to move forward together. And we have a challenge on our hands. The challenge is this. We've got highly trained and educated people driving cabs, for example. I'm talking about architects, accountants, and engineers. And what we're proposing through our initiative is that we're going to provide some support to employers who will take on highly skilled individuals so they can acquire on-the-job training and obtain and position themselves to certification so that they then can go and get a job on their own. I stand by the decisions that I made. We did, in fact, bring on the health premium, and we did, in fact, bring on the HST. Those were difficult decisions, but they've done the job. We have grown a lot stronger. Our schools are so much stronger today. Our health care is so much stronger today. Because of the HST is now stable, and the underpinnings make us so much more competitive. We've created 80,000 jobs since we brought the HST. And now in our platform, because we have made the right decisions, some of those difficult decisions, we can do even more to support our families. And that includes reducing the price of university tuition by $1,600 every year, while providing support to seniors when they stay in their homes, a new healthy home renovation tax credit of $1,500 every year. The other thing I think is noteworthy, that the opposition tell us that they don't like the HST. Well, they're keeping it. You think if they had the courage of their convictions, they'd run against it and run to undo it. They accept in their heart of hearts that it's not an easy thing to do, but it's important for us to do it. Look at our numbers. Tell us what you think. They've verified our numbers. They've approved the economic plan that we have put in place. The PCs have not done that. We have the NDP. PCs have a $14 billion hole, and you can't fill that hole without making cuts to our schools and to our health care. The NDP are going to raise taxes to the tune of $9 billion on our job creators. That's going to hurt our economic growth. And if you hurt our economic growth, it means we don't have the wealth that we all want to have to support our kids in their schools, support our seniors in their homes. Graduation rates are way up. Test scores are way up. We have the highest rate of enrollment in post-secondary education in the country. Then what about health care? Because health care is important to families too. Yes, costs are important, but so are schools, and so is health care. We've got 11,000 more nurses. We've got 2,900 more doctors. We now have the shortest wait times in the country. They used to be the longest. Over 1 million more Ontarians now have access to their own family doctor. And then when it comes to the economy, we're creating more jobs here in Ontario since January than the rest of the country combined. So yes, taxes are an important issue. $6,400 less for your daughter's university degree. That's a cost issue. It goes right into the heart of homes. And for seniors, we're saying $1,500 off home renovations that help you stay in your home. So let's not divorce from costs, because we are helping with costs. Change, based on the best advice that we've had both from teachers and parents. And the advice that we got from teachers is that for them to produce a full traditional report card after 4 or 5 weeks of school was not sensible. I agree. So what we have is a less formal report card that we provide. But I can also say, as the father of 4 children, that teachers assess students on a regular basis. They send home assignments on a regular basis. They're marked. And I would encourage parents to follow their students' education very closely. And you shouldn't just wait for the report card and then suddenly be surprised one way or the other with results. You should have a very good sense as an active parent involved in your child's education as to how your child is doing on an almost weekly. You're not going to talk about him about doing what we've done. We've got a perfect record, no strikes. We need those kids in school. Every time those kids are out of school, other countries get ahead. We're keeping our kids in school, finding peace, stability, and progress. That's our record. I'm proud to put our record up in education against their record any day. All those strikes and all that conflict and the test scores and flat line. Mr. Hudak is saying that I want cell phones introduced into the classroom, then he's wrong. I have never said that. I want to be very clear on that. It's teachers and principals to make smart decisions about the right kinds of technology to use in the classroom. The first thing that we did when we formed the government is we froze tuition for 2 years. That's never been done before. The next thing we said is that when we lift the freeze, what we want to do is ensure that there's a cap on how much you can raise tuition on an annual basis. So we have a cap in place. It expires at the end of this year, and we're going to have to negotiate a new rate going forward beyond that. Right now it's 5% a year. It's important to understand that our tuition grant is 30%. So if tuition were to go up, it's still 30% of the new tuition. So we've locked that in. Here's the other thing I can say, is that in the past few years we've gone up by 5% a year, but I can tell you this much, it's going to be less than 5%. Right? It's very important to all of us that young people coming from every income level in every home in Ontario has access to a quality, affordable, post-secondary education. Keep in mind as well, I want to go back to this gentleman's concern here. Full-day kindergarten saves a family $6,500 in daycare costs. Right? So again, it's not just taxes. It's when I have a family, I'm looking at all my costs. What's my kids' tuition? What's my daycare? What about renovating my home for my older mother? Those kinds of things. Daycare. I think we've created some 80,000 new spaces since 2003. And there was a point in time when the federal government was providing some support for daycare spaces. They walked away from that, and we decided that we would fill in that hole so we could continue to support those spaces. Going forward, what we've got we've got a plan in place to continue to work with our daycare operators. When you take 5-year-olds out of daycare, with full-day kindergarten, take them out of daycare and put them in schools, that creates a lot more space inside, relieving some of the pressures within the system itself. But we know that there's going to be more to do in the future, and we look forward to working with our daycare people. And I want to take the opportunity to repeat the thanks that I offered at the beginning. Thanks for the work. It can't be easy all the time, and that you work under difficult conditions. Many of you are in the system here in Ontario and in Canada. You've got to race yourself to understand it so that you in turn can help your readers or your viewers or your listeners understand it. And I really appreciate the effort that you make in that regard. time, but it's something that I'm going to consider. The fact of the matter is, you and I are participating in a wonderful adventure. We call it Ontario, Canada. Right? We're determined to find strength in our differences. We have a very diverse society world. So the way we need to approach our society, our relationship with our media, should look a little bit different than it is in other parts of the world as well. So you've introduced an interesting idea. I will give that some thought to ensure that we are doing everything we should be doing in a diverse society to make sure you're doing your jobs the best way that you can so that you have an audience that is being informed in the best possible way that they can be as well. So I appreciate the idea. Michael?
I always say that the quality of the Chinese media is quite incredible. The way they're reporting here locally, domestically, and also reporting news from back home China. So this is very, very good to the community. You are strengthening the information to the people here. Now, in terms of 50 Chinese media, and that is the culture of doing business. Sometimes we do have to be a bit of concern there. Chinese restaurant. I ran a Chinese restaurant in 1981, and I can tell you this guan chao ngao is one dish. Right now, I still can get $4.99 for the same guan chao ngao. My point here is our culture of doing business is we do not have a bottom line, and somehow other seems to holding a bottom line. Now here, yes, a lot of Chinese media, yes, a lot of South Asian media. We do have to understand the competition, okay, experience. I myself recognize, Joseph, you talk about the bigger getting a lion's share of the pie. But I believe the smaller one, I think you are also contributing and has been trying to help as much as possible. You probably realize that. That you bring that to the attention of the Premier is very interesting. Okay, and the Premier will look into that. Hopefully, it will something would come out. And not only the Chinese media, I think the South Asian media is very important as well. So thank you for raising that concern.
We've got, you'll take a look. Remember, we've got some experience in this regard. In 2003, the PCs hid a $1.6 billion deficit. You may remember that. I don't know if you were working in the same line of work back then, but they hid a $5.6 billion deficit from the public. Well, we've got our books on approved now by the auditor, so everybody knows the true state of finances are, and we are on track. And we eliminated that $5.6 billion deficit, so we know how to get rid of deficits. And we've got a long-term plan now to eliminate our deficit by the year 2017, 2018. We're very good at beating our projections, at ending up with a lower deficit number than we had originally anticipated. And that's because we worked very hard to get that deficit down. It's about 43% lower today at the height of the recession. So we've got a good record when it comes to eliminating the deficit and supporting our important public services.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.